Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review, and oh my god, the energy I'm feeling after that Raw for a go-home show for a pay-per-view. It achieved its objective. I am all in for Hell in a Cell this Sunday, and yes, boys and girls, that includes John Cena versus Randy Orton inside the Hell in a Cell. I thought this Raw was terrific. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Terrific might be a little bit of hyperbole, but it was definitely a really good Raw. And I'll definitely go as far as to say it might have been our best Raw since SummerSlam.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this was a really solid show. We had a little bit of everything on this show.
We really did. I mean, we had guest appearances, we had pay-per-view build, just everything. I think they threw everything but the kitchen sink at us with this Raw. So with that said, let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And I gotta say, I have no heats of the night tonight.
Well, that's unfortunate because I have at least one.
All right, well, let's talk it out, man. Uh-oh.
The fake soldier thing.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. Okay, what was your problem with it?
Everything about it was a problem. First of all, you have a plant dressed up in an army outfit. Ding, ding, ding. Problem number one. They're trying to talk about American nationalism like it's the thing to do. How incredibly unnationalistic is it to impersonate an armed forces officer?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I don't know if it's illegal, but I know it's definitely frowned upon, and it might even be illegal in some states.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if WWE got some backlash about this tomorrow morning. We'll have to see how that all goes from a PR perspective. But it just seems so bizarre to go in that direction. And you know what? I think the only thing that kind of saved this from being a heat of the night for me, to be honest, was oddly enough Michael Cole, because he had enough sense to openly acknowledge on commentary, military or not, you're not supposed to jump the barricade. You're not supposed to come into the ring.
Well,
so, yeah.
And I only got so far before I stopped. So once you're finished explaining your side, I want to continue.
Oh, no, you can continue. Let's hear the rest of it.
Okay, well, first of all, we had the guy jumping over. First strike is impersonating an armed forces guy. Second strike, Rusev super kicks the guy. Now, first of all, the biggest problem that I have with this is that it completely took any and all, this might be real, out of this segment. Because if you're going to use a wrestling move on a guy like a super kick and he's going to sell it and you're going to very clearly pull it, why in the world would anybody believe that it was legit? I mean, the only appeal that this segment had to it was the I don't think that was supposed to happen factor. And that immediately went away when Rusev friggin' super kicked the guy. Everything up until that point was believable until the super kick.
Right.
And the second problem that I have is that Rusev attacked this guy when security very clearly had him kind of constrained. And if the super kick wasn't enough, now we're in the realm of, oh, he's a heel, so he's going to be a jerk and cheap shot somebody who's constrained.
Right. I see what you're saying.
So that's strike numbers 2 and 3, I guess you could say.
Right.
For taking me out. Well, actually, I'll just call it strike number 2. And then strike number 3 was the fact that commentary made it seem like kicking a douchebag fan who jumps the rail in the face is worse than being the douchebag fan who jumps the rail.
Right.
That's a huge problem to me. Now, granted, John, you and I, and probably, I'll say 90% of the people who saw this show are smart enough to know that either A, it was a plant, or B, it was an idiot who shouldn't have done it. But there's that sliver of people out there who are going to say, oh, that guy's a national hero. Next time Rusev's in the ring, I'm going to get out there and get super kicked and be a martyr for my country.
Yeah, you know that, like, fringe minority exists somewhere. Just thinking, like, wow, if he did it, imagine the kind of interactions I can get if I jump over the rail. Maybe John Cena will deliver an AA to me or something, or just something along those lines. I think, you know, it sets somewhat of a dangerous precedent, and you're taking a gamble by doing something like this on television where millions of people watch your product on a regular basis.
Right, and the dangerous precedent lies entirely with the way that it was treated, not the fact that it happened. The problem is they kept the camera on the guy the whole time. Really, they made him the show. They kept the camera on him the whole time. They paid attention to him. He was the entire feature on the app during the commercial. And then when we came back, they featured him and the Big Show.
Yeah.
And the problem here is this whole celebrity mentality. Because now people are going to think, oh, if I jump the rail and get into the ring, they're going to put the camera on me. I'm going to be the focus of the show. And honestly, this is a very, very, very small minority, because these are the people that don't realize that this segment was very, very, very scripted and fake and a plant and all that stuff. But it's putting it in people's minds that if they do this, they can get the attention for it. And that's a huge problem, because, again, it comes back to the celebrity thing, and the way commentary treated it was, well, yeah, you should never do that, but let's all pay attention to this guy.
Yeah. You've really given me a lot to think about, Ashton, because honestly, when I first saw the segment, as far as I went with it I was annoyed with how the crowd was so against Rusev for the super kick, because it's like, okay, it's perfectly acceptable to disparage and disrespect other people's flags at home, but if somebody tries to do that to our flag, we just won't stand for it. So freedom of speech only applies to so many. Well,
and yeah, that was actually, I already got to 3 strikes, but there's more.
Ah, okay.
Strike 4 is Big Show's reaction to the whole thing. I'm allowed to tear down your flag, and the only repercussion that I deserve for that is to apologize, not even to you, but to just your country in general. But if you try to tear down my flag, I'm going to throw a bitch fit about it.
Right.
And then the whole, again, Big Show did it with the veteran, the plant, the Armed Forces veteran plant guy, talking about how there are certain lines that you don't step over. Yeah, how about that line that separates the crowd from the workers, Big Show? I think that's a line that you shouldn't step over either.
Yeah. I feel like the hypocrisy is so blatant here in how it was handled. The sensationalism that they gave the victim, again, incurring the idea in that small minority's mind said, hey, maybe if I do that, I'll be internet famous, because, in this day and age, that's one of the only kinds of famous for so many people. And yeah, you've really given me a lot to think about, because I think it goes far beyond the mere annoyance of that American exceptionalism that, has gotten under my skin since day one.
Right.
And yeah, because originally, I'll confess, I like the ingenuity of them trying to get heat on Rusev in this way.
Right.
But I think you kind of showed the very obvious holes that go with it. So yeah, I can co-sign onto that. Actually, I think you've won me over with your arguments, because I never even pondered it in this way. So good pickup there.
Yeah. So that, and I'm trying to think of anything else that might have ticked me off about it, but I can't. So I'm just going to let it go. That was my one and only heat of the night. And the rest of this show was actually pretty freaking good, if not great.
I had multiple mark-out moments for the show, and I can't wait to talk about all of them. But before we do that, we have to recap Friday Night Smackdown. Not really much to say here, actually, to be honest. Like I say every week when we do this, I don't even really remember many notable things from the show. I'm trying to even remember what the main event was. I feel like it had something to do with Seth. I know Seth Rollins had an amazing match with Dolph Ziggler. That was something that happened. So Dolph had like 2 phenomenal TV matches in the same week, because he had Randy Orton on Monday, and that was just a clinic. I don't think Dean had a match. Don't know if Randy did anything. Yeah, I'm kind of drawing a blank outside of Seth Rollins, Dolph Ziggler. So do you remember anything?
Not really, man. This show, I mean, it's SmackDown. What can I say? It wasn't as bad as previous SmackDowns, but again, SmackDown at this point is just a practice run and a recap of Raw.
Right. So I guess with that soundbite, we move on to our Monday Night Raw review, and we open up this show with the Authority in tow, and my rhyming game is tops right now.
If you say so.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't see what I did there.
I did, and I loved it.
All right, well, we open the show with the Authority. They come out, and it's not the whole Authority because there's no Stephanie McMahon. So that's a notable absence. She wasn't on the show at all tonight. And I think the only person that doesn't talk throughout this entire, 11-minute promo is Kane. Triple H says that he is proud of the guys in the ring with him and hypes up tonight's main event, the 3-on-2 handicap street fight. And then he plugs Hell in a Cell and the WWE Network, says that Hell in a Cell is going to put an end to two rivalries, Cena Orton and Ambrose Rollins. And then Rollins and Orton get on the mic. They start talking about the main event before Triple H steps back in, and he says they're both in the main event, and it's going to be a double main event, meaning basically trying to say that Ambrose Rollins and Cena Orton are both going to be considered main events, even though it's very likely, now that we know, excuse me, that was a hiccup, now that we know that Cena Orton is a number one contendership match, because that makes sense. The guy that loses the contract on a pole match gets put into a number one contendership match for the WWE title, but whatever. And because of the fact that it is a number one contendership match, that makes me pretty much sign, sealed, delivered that show. That's going to be on last.
Yeah, definitely. That's main eventing the show. Great summation of the opening segment. I won't add too much to it. I just really like how, again, they're teasing that tension between Randy Orton and Seth Rollins, a tension that boiled over by the end of the night. So it'll be another great to discuss. I think you summed it up perfectly. I have nothing to add to it. If you want to move on to the next segment, we can.
One of my favorite moments of the entire night actually happened to close this segment.
Oh, what's that?
Triple H gets done talking, and his music starts playing, and then Kane goes, F your music, and he does his pyro.
Yeah, it actually scared Seth Rollins. I like that. That
it
was
scared
funny.
Seth Rollins, and it annoyed Orton enough that he gave Kane the stare of death.
Nice.
It was awesome.
Excellent stuff.